Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the NatureCity Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Pradelli, and I'm also the CEO and co-founder of NatureCity, having started the company over 20 years ago with my wife, Beth. And since then, it's been our pleasure to have served over 500,000 Americans by offering them the best supplements we can make. Today, we're going to be talking about getting a better night's sleep, which means helping you fall asleep faster, helping you stay asleep, and helping you wake up refreshed. That's really our goals in getting a good night's sleep. And specifically, we're going to be talking about two nutrients, the Suntheanine brand of L-theanine and the Shoden high-potency Ashwagandha, which help support you in these goals. And to help me discuss it for you, I'm joined by Eric Kennison from Nutriscience Innovations, who is the supplier of these ingredients. And Eric covers the East Coast, manages the East Coast sales for Nutriscience. So Eric, great to see you as always, and welcome.
Yeah, great to see you too, Carl. Thank you so much for having me on the pod. I'm very excited to be here.
No, we're excited to have you. So maybe, Eric, the best way to start, I know these ingredients work in tandem very well, but why don't we just start by talking about a little bit about each of them? Maybe we'll start the Suntheanine, L-theanine. So what is L-theanine? Where is it found in nature, and what does it do in the body?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to start. So L-theanine is an amino acid that's going to promote relaxation, decrease stress, and anxiety. It's going to do this by increasing alpha waves and decreasing both beta and theta waves in the brain. It's also a very significant neurotransmitter found in the brain. And most commonly in the food chain, L-theanine is going to be found in tea. And that's why a lot of people will commonly associate calming effects when they're having their tea.
Yeah, I think it's in black tea, but I think it's more prominent in green tea. Is that about right?
Yes, it's present in both, but there's a much more higher concentration in the green tea than in the black tea.
Great. And I know L-theanine clearly established itself as the market leader, over the last 20 years, robust library of research. What makes it, in your opinion, a superior choice for use in supplements?
So you're absolutely right. Suntheanine has cemented itself as a brand leader and a brand that consumers recognize for both quality and efficacy. So Suntheanine is the only form of theanine on the market that has hundreds of efficacy and safety studies done on the material itself. It was also the first form of theanine on the market and has been on the market for over 20 years. So it's been a mainstay in our industry for a while now. It's also the only form of theanine on the market that has safety studies done on the manufacturing process itself, which is very important because we're helping out with showing that it's a very safe product and something that consumers can feel good about consuming. It's also the only form of theanine that will mimic how L-theanine is naturally produced in the tea plant throughout its manufacturing process. And we do that via a patented fermentation, enzymatic fermentation process. And I think that those reasons are why such prominent and trustworthy brands choose to use Suntheanine over the competition.
Absolutely. So helping our bodies cope with the effects of stress and relax and sleep better is, just so important to our health and quality of life in general. I mean, I don't know too many people that aren't feeling stressed these days, right? I mean, I think so. Yeah. I think sometimes we get used to it. We don't even realize we're stressed, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what I think there have been over 200 published studies, or at least complete studies with Suntheanine. What are some of the key scientific findings from these studies?
I mean, it's a great question. I think we could do a whole podcast on just that topic itself. There's a lot of different health categories that Suntheanine has been studied for, but I'd say that there's 5 big main ones that I always focus on. And those would be relaxation, calming, stress reduction, focus, and then cognitive health. And cognitive health can be extended even further into improved executive function, memory, reduced error rates, fast reaction times, different things like that. And then Suntheanine also has multiple clinical studies to support each of those health categories that I just mentioned there. On top of that, it's the only form of theanine on the market that has studies done at 50, 100, and 200 milligrams, with the 200 milligram dose being what I like to call the gold standard dose of Suntheanine, as it's the most effective. We also have 2 separate studies showing that you can feel the effects of suntheanine within 30 to 60 minutes, which I know that I like a fast-acting product, and I think the consumers out there certainly do too. So it's great that we have that data to show that it's something that you can truly feel the effects of rather quickly.
Well, speaking about fast acting, maybe now that segues nicely into really today's topic, which is how suntheanine may help us sleep better. So how does suntheanine work to achieve that?
So suntheanine is going to take a multifaceted approach to supporting sleep health. Like I mentioned, it's going to increase the alpha waves and then decrease the beta waves to promote a relaxing state without necessarily causing unwanted drowsiness. Chemically, it's going to act on the GABA receptors in the brain and will also help to reduce stress. As we know, like everybody knows, unhealthy levels of stress can significantly decrease a restful night's sleep, which is what nobody wants. And then it's also going to do all of this, acting on the GABA receptors, decreasing stress in a fast way. So it's going to help the consumers feel these effects quickly before getting into bed for a night's sleep.
So Eric, you mentioned the alpha waves, which I believe your body, help your body relax and when it's presented with a stressful situation, whereas the beta waves in the brain kind of do just the opposite. Is that essentially correct?
Yeah, that is correct. The beta waves that you described, those are going to be excitatory thoughts and stimulation in the brain, while the alpha waves are going to be exactly the opposite. It'll be calming and relaxing stimulation going through the brain and will help decrease the amount of stress.
And one of the keys to suntheanine being able to achieve this is being able to cross the blood-brain barrier quickly, so it can help promote those alpha waves, help the brain relax as we're getting ready for bedtime. Has the research essentially shown that this helps us get to sleep faster?
So suntheanine is one of the few compounds that's going to be crossing the blood-brain barrier. And as I mentioned in one of my previous answers, it's going to act on the GABA receptors, which is actually not going to cross the blood-brain barrier. And it's going to increase both GABA and dopamine levels in the brain. Because suntheanine is fat soluble and readily absorbed, once it crosses the blood-brain barrier via the leucine preferential transport system, it's going to act much quicker than a lot of other compounds. This helps with not only sleep, but stress. And once again, all of this happening in a rather quick manner to help consumers fall asleep even quicker.
Right. And it's interesting. I think it's important that L-theanine is something you can take during the day too. So it doesn't make you drowsy. It really just puts you in a little more relaxed state. So as you mentioned, you can fall asleep a little faster. It's unlike, say, like a melatonin, which, it creates a little more of a drowsy effect. And sometimes I know personally, my experience with melatonin, having taken it, in different dosages and many different forms, it just really doesn't work well for me. I wake up feeling groggy and not ready to really get out of bed and attack the day. Whereas L-theanine, it doesn't have that effect at all. Is that right?
Yeah, I would completely agree with both things you just mentioned there on the melatonin and then on the theanine as well. So some things that we looked at in the suntheanine sleep studies in particular were how long it took to fall asleep. And then what was more resonated better with me in particular, and I think consumers as well find this more interesting, is how long it takes consumers to get out of bed after waking up. So in these suntheanine sleep studies, we use the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. And one of the things that we'll look at is time to get out of bed after waking. So in each of the suntheanine studies looking at sleep, we were able to show a decrease in time it takes to get out of bed after waking up. I know that was one of the reasons I personally added suntheanine to my regimen, is because before I joined Nutriscience, I tell you what, I had trouble with that nearly every day. It seemed like even if I got my full 8 hours of sleep, I still felt that, I was tired in the morning when my alarm went off. I still needed or wanted to snooze a couple times just to get a little bit more rest in bed, even though I'd still gotten my sleep. So I think that having those benefits along with less disturbances throughout the night and falling asleep quicker is really one of the benefits that suntheanine will provide that a lot of other sleep supplements, specifically like melatonin, that's just going to knock you out, will provide for.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the Pittsburgh Sleep Index, because that really is pretty much, well, I mean, it was not the gold standard. It's certainly one of the gold standard indexes to really measure sleep quality. And so I guess to summarize it, you guys found with Suntheanine that it can help you fall asleep faster, can result in less sleep disturbances during the night, which I believe waking up more frequently and unable to get back to sleep. Is that fair? Is that what sleep disturbance means?
Yeah, that's exactly what a sleep disturbance would be. You wake up for whatever reason throughout the night. And then in this specific instance, in these studies, it would be not due to external factors, not because, there's a thunderstorm rolling in the middle of the night. It would be more of the natural sleep pattern that would be causing these sleep disturbances.
Absolutely. So we have, helping us fall asleep faster, less sleep disturbances during the night, and then helping us get out of bed quicker when we do wake in the morning. So, I mean, those are three pretty important benefits right there.
Yeah, they are very important benefits. And like I said, this is one of the reasons why I added Suntheanine to my regimen. I can personally attest that it really helps with all three of those, just like our many human clinical studies using the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index have shown.
And that study, the study you're referring to specifically, and I think some of your other ones as well for sleep, they used the 200 milligrams of Suntheanine. Is that correct?
Yeah. So all of the sleep studies on Suntheanine that used the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index used the 200 milligram dose of Suntheanine. We have other data at the 50 and 100 milligram dose that I mentioned earlier, but those had to do with different health benefits.
Right. Yes, that's why we selected 200 milligrams for our sleep supplement, 200 milligrams of L-theanine for True Z's, which is our sleep supplement. Eric, one of the things our customers like to know, and you touched on it a little bit already, but, just I think it's worth reiterating. You've done a lot of work with respect to the safety of Suntheanine.
Yep.
Is there any kind of, from the research or the experience in 20 years of selling this ingredient, is there anything that has that you've seen that causes any concerns or about any unwanted effects or gastrointestinal problems or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think this is an important point to revisit because there's a little bit more information I can share here. So Suntheanine is one of the safest dietary ingredients around. That's one of the biggest benefits to it. It has many brand-specific toxicology studies that showed that it was going to be safe for human consumption, and then there would be no unwanted effects or incidents, definitely not with GI issues or anything like that. Furthermore, it's FDA GRAS, which means that the FDA has reviewed and approved the safety and toxicity studies that we have on Suntheanine. And then additionally, just to go on top of that a little bit more, Suntheanine also has certification like an informed choice ingredient and non-GMO project verified, just to really put the icing on the cake for how well-rounded the quality of this ingredient is, but the safety data as well is awesome.
So now switching to the other ingredient, which is the Shoden Ashwagandha. As you know, the use of ashwagandha has grown rapidly in recent years. What makes Shoden unique in the marketplace?
So Shoden is the world's most bioavailable and bioactive ashwagandha. We use the most modern extraction process, which is a double extraction process that uses only water and ethanol. We don't use any sort of harsh solvents or anything like that, which allows us to make Shoden non-GMO project verified. It also, because we're using this very modern extraction process, has the higher standardization to the active contained within ashwagandhas, which is called withanalyte glycosides for anybody out there that doesn't know. And that industry-leading standardization is 35% withanalyte glycosides. So because we have the highest standardization to active, we also have the lowest clinical dose at 60 to 120 milligrams, with the 120 milligram dose specifically pertaining to restorative sleep. Not only sleep, but restorative sleep.
Absolutely. And we'll get into that here in just a moment. Just want to ask you about something, I've been reading about. There's been some debate in the marketplace as to what's better, the ashwagandha made from just the roots or both the roots and the leaves of the plant. I think this could impact the potency, and I know there's some environmental aspects to the question. What's your perspective?
So first and foremost, I'd say that there's space in our industry for all ashwagandha products. But to answer that specific question, I would say that the roots soaked in milk is the traditional and Ayurvedic way of consuming ashwagandha. But Shoden is going to use both the root and the leaf, and we use a double extraction process that's going to get us the highest potency. This is also going to provide for more benefit. And to answer your question about sustainability, will help with sustainability. As we're using more of the crop, we're using the leaves, and then most of the plant itself. The only part that we're really not using is the stems, which is rather twiggy, brittle, and wouldn't really be all that beneficial.
Right.
We're using most of the crop, so there's less waste at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like the leaves can help you essentially, with the proper extraction as you guys do, can really help improve the potency of the key nutritional compounds, which I think has allowed you to show benefits at much lower, dosages or serving sizes. Is that more or less it?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. I mean, it also, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but it also allows us to have a more bioactive range of withanoline glycosides in our product because we're using more plant parts. And I think we'll touch on that a little bit later, but it all does at the end of the day provide for a more potent ashwagandha product.
Well, actually, let's get into that right now, because that's kind of interesting, because it's within, you're saying there's like a subclass of these nutrients essentially that you think is important?
Well, so as I mentioned earlier, Shoden has the industry leading standardization to add 35% withanoline glycosides. And of those withanoline glycosides, there's actually 21 unique withanoline glycosides that's going to make up that 35%. A lot of other ashwagandha extracts only contain about 2 to 4. So when Shoden has 21 unique withanoline glycosides, it's much more bioactive and will also provide for a wider range of benefits. It's also, like I mentioned, because of this, much more potent as well. And that's why we're able to get such a strong standardization to the withanoline glycosides.
Got it. Among the attractive features of ashwagandha helps, it's an adaptogen. It helps bring the body into balance. It helps keep the stress hormone cortisol in check. What else do you find interesting about the plant, how it works, that can help, obviously sleep, as today's discussion, but anything else you think is relevant?
Yeah, so I think that one thing specifically talking about sleep here that is rather important is that it's, as you mentioned, it's an adaptogen. It's going to help with recovery during sleep as well. So it is going to help you fall asleep quicker, have a more restful night's sleep, but it's also going to provide for lower cortisol levels so you're not as stressed, which is going to help the body recover while you're sleeping. So if you're stressed and after a workout, you're not going to have as an effective recovery and build up the muscles that you depleted during your workout if you're stressed than if you weren't. So working on the mechanism of action of both stress and then the sleep to help with recovery is a unique aspect of Shoden and ashwagandha in general. On top of that, the high bioavailability of Shoden is extremely unique and unique to this ashwagandha extract in general. So we have data to show that the withanoline glycosides of Shoden will be remaining in the bloodstream for more than 24 hours and are much more effectively taken up into the bloodstream compared to other forms of ashwagandha. So this means that the stress reduction is going to be day long, and then the sleep improvement benefits are going to be night long as well. Also, this restorative sleep information and data that we have on Shoden is unique because it's about helping out the consumer in their daily lives with pursuing their tasks, energized and waking up refreshed, which is exactly what we were targeting with the restorative sleep study with Shoden. And that data is specific to Shoden. Not many other products out there have such information.
No, look, I think what first caught our eye about Shoden, well, first, I think you were the first ones to actually do a sleep study with ashwagandha, at least a high quality sleep study. But then, which gets back to what you were referring to before, which is basically using both the roots and the leaves, plus your proprietary extraction process, being able to use only 120 milligrams of Shoden allows us to combine it with the Suntheanine, L-theanine. And we also include the Afron brand of saffron, which actually helps promote melatonin levels naturally, as opposed to giving your body some synthetic melatonin. It just helps support the melatonin process, production process in your body. So that was really nice, right? Instead of having to use 500-600 milligrams of ashwagandha, with Shoden, we only need to use 120 milligrams, which was great. So let's talk a little bit about, you touched on a little bit with the sleep, some of the sleep study you did, and you mentioned restorative sleep. Okay. So maybe we should just talk about what that is a little bit. Essentially, that's the mode during the night as your body kind of rotates through the 4 sleep cycles. Your restorative sleep typically occurs largely, but not entirely, but largely during when you're in the deepest stage of sleep. And this restorative sleep time is when your body's really in the recovery and repair mode, right? It's when the body really kind of, it's not just about recharging the batteries, it's actually about the body repairing itself, right? That happens a lot during the sleep, and that happens a lot during restorative sleep. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I'd say that's very fair. And Shoden was the first ashwagandha ingredient to be looking at restorative sleep in general. And it does kind of make sense because a lot of endurance athletes and high performance athletes out there are incorporating ashwagandha in their daily regimens because it really does help with recovery throughout the night. So to get into some of the nitty gritty on the sleep data that we have from this study on Shoden, it showed a 42% increase of the restorative sleep and an average of 39 minutes more of restorative sleep per night in this study, which I thought was a great finding. And then on top of that, it was a very well done study. It was a very large study at 150 people, which is rather large for this industry.
Yeah.
And it was looking at how, it's similar to the Suntheanine things, how long it takes to fall asleep, how disturbances throughout the night, and how long it takes to get up out of bed in the morning. But what was unique about the Shoden study, the non-restorative sleep Shoden study, is that it looked at quality of life measures throughout the day as well. So we were able to show a reduction of daytime grogginess, daytime tiredness, and also we're able to show that consumers can feel waking up refreshed. And I think that resonates so well with a lot of us. I know all my friends, it makes sense to them. And it's something that everybody would want to do, because waking up with the energy and vigor to take on your day is something that we're all striving for, especially getting a better night's sleep and a more efficient night's sleep.
Yeah, that's a great summary. And what's interesting, I think we should point out for our listeners is, you may feel the effects of the Suntheanine, maybe as soon as the first night, but, certainly within the first week, you may feel, might helping you fall asleep a little faster. But with respect to the Shoden Ashwagandha, generally you got to give it a few weeks to really feel the full effects. Is that what you guys found?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I think that you and I have talked about this in the past, where with ashwagandhas in general, it's not unique to Shoden. There is a loading period. It's not something like Suntheanine that has what I like to say a feelability. There's a loading period, so you're going to have to be taking it for at least a week, probably a couple, to really start getting the benefits from Shoden. You'll feel the Suntheanine right away, but the Shoden, as with all ashwagandhas, you're going to need to take it for a little while to really start feeling the effects and of that adaptogen.
Right. And that's what I encourage, our people who try True Z's for the first time. It's like, hey, give yourself a few weeks, give yourselves the entire month, really, just to make sure your body has a chance to start experiencing some of these great effects. Because, the research tells us for most people, they're going to happen, right? But, again, whereas you may start to fall asleep a little faster from the outset, you may not start to feel that feeling of being, refreshed, or, eliminate the daytime kind of crashing and drowsiness that you may experience otherwise. And you don't want to miss out on that, right? So stick with it.
It's also different for everybody too,
Yes.
just because, I might start feeling the effects of Shoden within 1 week. You could very well feel the effects, at the end of the 4-week period. So it's really different for everybody. And I would second what you mentioned about giving the product the full 30 days to really start reaping the effects of everything in the formula.
No question. Yeah, I think that, as you mentioned, I'm glad you brought that up because, results are going to vary by individuals. And we talk about statistics here. Those are really the averages of the group who were in the study. So it's important for us to note, right?
Absolutely.
I just think this is such an important point. So I just want to reiterate it. Like with the Suntheanine, Shoden is not going to cause your body to, it's not going to cause drowsiness, right? So again, you're going to wake up, unlike maybe with melatonin and some other things, you're not going to feel that grogginess when you wake up and, try to get out of bed.
No, that it definitely wouldn't do anything like that, specifically because what we were kind of just talking about, the mechanism of action for Shoden is going to take a little bit longer. And it's not really a fast-acting product like melatonin, for example, which is going to be acting same day. The loading period there really wouldn't be a concern for drowsiness or unwanted grogginess when consuming Shoden and this product.
Right.
Even though the withaniline glycosides are going to be circulating in the body throughout the day. That would be more pertaining to the stress and cortisol reduction benefits rather than the sleep benefits.
Absolutely. I'm sure you guys have, like you did with Suntheanine, have done some type of safety, safety reviews with respect to the Shoden Ashwagandha. Is there anything there in terms of unwanted effects that people should know about?
No, absolutely no safety concerns with Shoden at all. It's self-affirmed grass, which means there's been many animal safety studies completed on it, and in addition to many human clinical studies that had no adverse events whatsoever. So there'd be no concerns with unwanted effects or any sort of issues like that.
Right, and I think you've probably done some studies at higher doses than 120 milligrams for other applications beyond sleep. Is that right?
Oh yes, absolutely. You'd have to take a lot of Shoden for it to really upset your stomach. We're talking grams and grams and grams,
right.
And even at that point, there's not even a significant health concern.
Right, because every once in a while I do get a question where some folks say, since this doesn't make you drowsy, can I take Tru-Z's during the day as well as before bed? And I don't see any reason why that would be a problem. Actually, might end up being beneficial just from the effects in terms of helping your body, cope with stress during the day as well as help you before you get to sleep.
I would agree with that. I just wouldn't go more than 2 servings a day, specifically because the body cannot absorb more than 400 milligrams of theanine in one day. So kind of anything on top of 2 doses is going to be kind of a moot point. There would be less bioavailability on that 3rd dose.
Great advice. Appreciate that. So look, our goal with the Tru-Z's formula was, as I said at the outset, help you fall asleep faster, help you stay asleep, and help you wake up refreshed. And you see how the combination of the Suntheanine, L-theanine, and the Shoden Ashwagandha can kind of help you achieve those goals. And we recently upgraded the Tru-Z's formula, as I mentioned, to include the Afron brand of saffron, which also helps improve sleep quality by another complementary mechanism, which is mainly by helping you promote healthy melatonin levels in the evening. Very important. So, I know, Eric, is there anything that I missed with respect to, or we missed in our discussion with respect to, why these ingredients make sense to combine for sleep?
I think that we kind of covered a lot here, but just to summarize a little bit, I think that these are the two best ingredients in my portfolio for these claims. You guys did a really good job formulating this product, and I really do love the addition of Afron. That was a very smart move there. I really like that one. But I would like to say that the two mechanisms of action for Shoden and Suntheanine are going to be different. So it's nice to have the two products working simultaneously, but also on different mechanisms of action for both sleep health and stress reduction as well. I think that that's very important to note.
Yeah, and again, the key is to give the product some time because everyone's going to react a little differently, but you definitely don't want to miss out on those benefits. So, take the full bottle before you make any judgments.
Oh, yeah.
Some may, some folks, my wife and I, we first started taking, we actually start to notice the benefits right away. I also track my sleep. I wear an Oura ring, and I also have my Fitbit watch, which gives me some statistics. So, I'm not just, saying, oh, yeah, I feel subjectively better or I'm sleeping longer. I have some statistics to back that up, which I encourage everyone to do as well. But it really is a great product. And sleep is just so important now to our overall health. I mean, it's been linked to, just healthy aging in general, but, you name it, whether it be heart health or, cognitive function, it's all tied to getting, just not a good 7-8 hours of sleep, but sleeping well and getting great sleep quality.
Yeah, and getting a restful night's sleep. And, sleep is extremely important. I totally agree with you there. And it will help a wide range of health categories. But also the stress reduction is extremely important as well.
Yeah.
We've kind of covered that, but it's nice that, both of these ingredients are going to work on both the sleep and the stress to provide for a more restful night's sleep, and then also benefits throughout the day. And then like you mentioned with the Fitbit, the Oura Ring, I have my Apple Watch to track sleep. It's kind of a fun exercise to see, now that I'm trying to choose these formula, is this actually working? And I think that we can see the benefits directly through there. I'm sure you have, I know I have as well. So it's exciting to kind of, have that fun little exercise.
It is kind of fun, right? I mean, in the beginning, you get a little obsessed with it, right? You're like, oh, I got to check my numbers, right?
I'm sure you and your wife went back and forth. You're like, oh, how'd you sleep last night? Let's compare.
Yeah. But after a while, you say, all right, I'm good. And then you just jump out of bed in the morning and get ready to go, which to me is my favorite thing, right? Because like you, it's times like, oh man, I got to get up already, or do I hit that snooze alarm or whatever, right? Or you just, you just go back to sleep until your pets are now saying, no, it's time to go out,
Don't I know that? Yeah, it is nice to really wake up with that feeling of being refreshed. And for those who really haven't tried this formula yet, it's a unique feeling. And, it's not something that I experienced frequently without taking Shoden and Suntheanine. It's very rare that I was going to be waking up ready to go, and then continuing that feeling throughout the rest of my day, which we have data to show that both these products are going to help out with.
Great. Well, look, before we wrap up, Eric, we covered a lot, but is there anything you'd like the audience to know that we haven't covered about either Suntheanine or Shoden?
You're right. We covered a lot. I guess I'll just end with this. Suntheanine is going to work fast. It's going to be working within 30 to 60 minutes, while Shoden is going to work slowly in the body. It's going to work through the bloodstream for more than 24 hours. So it's not just about having two naturally derived ingredients working synergistically together on a functional basis, but they're all also working at different rates and different mechanisms of action to reduce stress, and then also provide for a healthy night's sleep and restorative sleep.
Well said. Well, Eric, thank you so much. This has been incredibly informative. And, I just want to reiterate how much we at NatureCity like working with you personally and NutriSciences in general, and look forward to working a lot more together. For the folks listening or watching, if you're interested in the True Z's product that Eric and I have been discussing, you can find that at NatureCity.com. If you enjoy these podcasts, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, or you can find us on your favorite streaming services, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or some others. So, Eric, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
Excellent. So this is Carl Pradelli, and I will see you next week.